where you put your money is really more important than what rate of return it's earning. I want you to be in control of your own money, and I'm going to put you in a position where you control it. By making your money as efficient as possible, I'm reducing the amount of money that I actually make a living off of. My name is Tom Lonnie, and I developed a process that I call Bulletproof Wealth. And the main thing about it is, I'm going to just show you real quick, is this little part in the bottom. That's what I really want to talk to you guys about tonight. That is compound growth, and it's the bottom of the shield. And I want to talk to you about the importance of compound growth and how that really impacts everything in the financial world, is having uninterrupted compound growth and the power of doing that. So this is what I call a personal economic model, and I just want to kind of go over a few things on this and explain a few things. Obviously, I'm not going to go into all of this, but this is how I kind of explain how people's normal everyday finances work. So you have earned income that goes in through your lifetime capital potential. That's all the money that you're ever going to earn, okay? And it comes down here through your monthly cash flow. It goes down through a tax filter, and then it goes through a lifestyle regulator, and that is what money you choose to live on, where you choose to live, what kind of cars you drive, what kind of food you eat, where you send your kids to college. All of that stuff is your lifestyle regulator. And then the rest of it goes through and is consumed and gone forever after you goes through your lifestyle regulator. Well, with great effort, you have to push money up through this pipe to get it up for your future lifestyle, either into investment tank or into savings tanks, okay? And investment tank has no lid because it does have risk. Savings tanks have lids on the top because the money that is in there is not at risk. It's going to compound, okay? So an ideal personal economic model would look like having your risk tank full, your savings tank full, and a lot of protection on all of this to where your savings tank is not going to be drained. If you get in an auto accident, homeowner's insurance, your home burns down, you have medical insurance in case you're sick, disability or long-term care insurance, disability insurance, life insurance, and you have a umbrella policy for the whole thing, and then you have wills and trusts. So that's like the perfect personal economic model right there. So I'm just going to turn this back off and show you basically what I do to help people financially. I turn on a third bucket, okay? And it's called your borrowed funds, and you're borrowing from this safe tank. So as you are building up cash inside of here, and it's compounding and compounding and compounding, you can actually borrow against these funds to invest in what you want to invest in, all the same time that your actual safe tank is compounding money. So the way that I do this is through specially designed life insurance that only works with a dividend-paying, mutually owned life insurance company. This concept was originally developed by a man named Nelson Nash, and I've got his book here. It's an amazingly good read. It's called Becoming Your Own Banker, and he talks about how to reclaim the banking function. So I took that concept and I expanded on it with some additional elements that really protect your wealth in a little bit more comprehensive way. But this is basically, this safe tank is permanent life insurance, and you borrow from this position to do your investments. And this is basically not an investment. This is the best place to store cash because it grows and compounds over time at a much greater rate than it would by putting it into a bank, okay? So I'm going to show you exactly how that works. Let's say that we were earning 4% crediting rate on permanent life insurance, which that beats the heck out of 0 point nothing in a bank, right? And you had a financial opportunity. Let's say it was a cash flowing real estate that was earning you 15% rate of return. We'll put in 15% rate of return here, and let's say that you borrowed $100,000 and you were charged 5% for the use of that money from the insurance company. So at this point, I have to explain to you guys how banks make money, okay? Banks make money because their commodity is money. So they lend money, right? And they charge interest for the money they lend. And when you put money on deposit, they pay you money. So let's just say in this example, you put a $100,000 deposit in a bank and they were paying you 1% interest, which is being really generous. So you put $100,000 on deposit with the bank and they pay you 1% interest. Then somebody comes along and borrows that same $100,000 that you put on deposit at 1% and they charge 3% interest to that person. Sounds fair, right? How much you guys think the bank is making on that deal? What are your thoughts? If they're paying 1% for you to have the money on deposit and they're charging 3% to somebody to loan that out, how much money is the bank actually making on their money? If it's 1 to 3, the bank is making 200%. And I can show you how that works. It normally is interesting because people go, oh, that sounds like a 2% spread, right? But the reality is when you look at a financial calculator, you plug it in and you plug in the present value of 1, which for logic, calculator logic, you have to use -1, and a future value of 3, and it would show that you're actually earning 200% on that money, okay? So if you were able to take a collateralized loan at 5%, and you were able to put that down on a real estate property cash flowing 15%, that's the same spread as a 1 to 3 spread. So you're actually making 200% rate of return if you can do that over and over. Does that make sense? What I'm trying to teach people is that it's a way to leverage your money. So let's talk about musicians. Since I was formerly in the music industry for 29 years, I was a producer and mix engineer, and they would had these things, CDs. I know this is like pulling out a 78 Victrola record now. I'm amazed the store even sells them. But I went to Best Buy and picked this up today and there was like 50 CDs available to buy total. But if an artist could buy this CD for $1 and sell it for $3, they're making that same 200% that a bank is making, right? So if they have access to money at 5%, where it's compounding at 4%, and they're not ever interrupting their compounding, they're actually doing an amazing thing for keeping their cash growing and growing and growing, but still having the liquidity, use, and control of it to be able to buy the products that they need that they can then mark up. So anybody from a standpoint of a business owner who has something that they can mark up, this is an amazing strategy. It's absolutely crazy what ends up happening over time to increase your actual efficiency of your money. So you pay back the loan interest and you end up with $10,000 extra. So if you borrow $100,000, you pay back 5% on that, you end up with a loan balance of $105,000 at the end. So you have to pay back that 5% interest, but you made 15%, so you end up with 10%. Well, you can do one of 3 things with it. You can pay back the loan, which obviously that would be a very good thing to do. You can buy more real estate with the extra amount, or you can buy more permanent life insurance to increase your capacity to put in more money in the future. Let me just give you a quick list of benefits that life insurance has that very few people understand. So it has tax-deferred growth, right? That means you can put your money into this thing, and once your money starts going into it, it grows and grows and grows forever, and you never pay taxes on it unless you surrender and exceed the basis of the money that you put into it. So if you put in $1 million and the thing grew to $2 million and you surrendered your policy, you would have to pay tax on that $1 million of growth. But because of Section 101 and Section 7702 of the tax code, life insurance has a unique taxation called first in, first out, or FIFO. That means that you can pull your basis out first and your gains out later. Okay? It's unlike an annuity, which is LIFO, and that means your gains come out first. That's last in, first out. Okay? So it has tax-deferred growth, tax-free distribution. So the way that I designed these things for retirement planning is you can use this money while you're working and you're doing real estate investing, and then if you need to take an annuitized income in retirement, I surrender the cash value up to the basis that you've put into the policy, and then we start taking policy loans. And there's a very special and unique thing that I have access to called an overloan protection benefit rider, and it prevents that policy from ever lapsing due to loaning too much from it, as long as the policy's been in force for 15 years and you are 75 years or older. So those two things have to be in place, and then you can never overloan your policy. Because the negative of overloaning a policy in your later years is that all of that money that is gained could come back to you as taxable, so you never want to do that. So there's a million ways to mess this thing up if you really don't know what you're doing and you're not working with somebody who understands all the ins and outs of this. So it has competitive returns, especially for some place to store cash, because there's no way you're going to find a place that you can do an average internal rate of return of 4%, including the cost of insurance, right? And be able to have insurance built in there, so you do have some life insurance, and then you're still getting 4% average internal rate of return total on your money. That cremates what a bank is paying. So the way it works, and I'll show you in a minute with a real illustration, is that it takes a while for the policy to capitalize. What that means is it takes a while for the amount you've put into it to equal the amount in cash value. But because of the miracle of compounding, once that happens, it just keeps going up forever. It has additional benefits that are absolutely critical. For example, you can add a free rider that says that if you need to access your death benefit for long-term care, you can use it and you don't have any charge for that rider. It's called a critical illness benefit rider unless you need to use it. So the problem with traditional long-term care insurance is it's so doggone expensive, and then if you don't use it, you just lose all the premium payments. But with this, you only use it if you need it for long-term care, and that's triggered by 2 of the 6 activities of daily living is how they determine that a doctor has to do that. Then it has, of course, collateral opportunities, safe harbor, which is one of the biggest things that this thing has, is it's creditor and predator protected. So once your cash gets inside of this, if they try to attach you in a bankruptcy, or a creditor or predator tries to come after your money, if it's inside of this, it's protected. It varies on a state-by-state basis, but in the state of Tennessee, it's 100%. So it's absolutely amazing. No loss provisions, because once your money starts going into this and compounding, it never goes down as long as you just let it keep rolling. Guaranteed loan options. This one is huge, and it's very difficult to explain this. Unstructured loan payments, but this means that when you take a collateralized loan against your cash value, you determine when you want to pay it back, okay? And that means you don't have a minimum interest you have to pay. If you want to take a collateralized loan, and let's say you take $100,000 and you want to pay nothing for 2 years, you can do that. It will just accrue at interest, okay? But if you were to die, then the insurance company would pay your beneficiary the death benefit minus the outstanding loan balance, and that's how that works. And this is the big 3. I call this the Holy Trinity: liquidity, use, and control. And it is the big thing I preach about, because what we're doing in America today is we're getting our money, sending it to mortgages, car notes, credit card payments, all this. It comes in one funnel and it just goes out and it's gone, and we don't have any access to it. So the liquidity, use, and control is 3 of the most important things. I'm trying to put people in control of their own money. That's what I'm trying to do. And the only way to do that is to do these specially structured policies that give you access to early cash value. This is not a traditional whole life policy that I'm doing, okay? So let's take a look at it. This is a illustration that I just ran last week for a 39-year-old woman, and she was looking at doing one of these. And I'll kind of give you an idea. This kind of many things I have to point out here. But once you see real numbers, it always clicks on light bulbs for people. So I was able to get her a cumulative premium outlay for year one of $47,549. That's just the most I could stuff into the policy without becoming a modified endowment contract. If it becomes a modified endowment contract, the U.S. government views it as an investment, okay? And then you lose your tax advantage status and it reverts from FIFO to LIFO. So we don't want that. So the pushing it to the MEC limit, I was able to get in $47,549 on her in the first year, and that gave her an end of year net cash value of $38,977. So many of these policies are designed where you have zero cash for the first 2-3 years, nothing. But I've got cash in the first 30 days. And the only way to do that is by really carefully structuring this thing to work the way that I'm trying to get it to work. So it generated a death benefit of $1.441 million, and that death benefit just continues to grow. You see it goes up here to $1,448,271 by 9 years in. And at that point, I illustrated her a loan of $100,000. That comes to her as income. And you can see what happens here. The death benefit is reduced by this $105,000. Do you see that? Now the death benefit is 134230, and that's only because if somebody passes away, if this lady passed away, then her beneficiary would not receive the $105,000 outstanding. That would be paid back. And so we ended up doing a loan repayment of 10 years just to show it, and this is the loan being repaid. You can see the balance is being paid off, and it ends up going back to zero, but her compounding of her money was not ever interrupted. So her first year premium was $47,549, and then it was $20,000 from there on, because that's the most I could get in after that first year. And you can see the dividend never goes backwards. It just keeps compounding and increasing and increasing and increasing and increasing. You know, this is just a detail, and this is a big picture. So this is what I call a zero line, okay? And basically this means that there is no money. You're like a 20-year-old young couple, you just got married, you got no money, so you want to buy a car. So what does everybody in America do when they just get married, they want to buy a car? They go out and they get a loan for the car. And what that sets up is a debt cycle. If you see here, let's say this car costs $25,000, they take a loan for $25,000, and then they pay it back in $5,000 increments, right? So they get back up to the zero line, but the car is now shot because it's 5 years old, so they have to take another loan for $25,000 in this example, pay it back, and on it goes, and this is what I call a debt cycle. So you just go from having nothing to being in debt to getting out of debt to getting back in debt, getting out of debt, getting back in debt, okay, and that is unproductive. That is the most unproductive financial thing you can do. Now, the other thing that is heavily preached in this area is totally opposite. It's where you save in a sinking fund your money before you make a purchase by deferring gratification. So you're deferring gratification for those first 5 years. You don't have a car. You're driving a junker. You save $5,000 a year, and then you've got $25K saved up right here, and then boom, you buy the car. Start saving the $5,000 again, and then you spend it and buy the car. Start saving the $5,000 again, and it goes on and on and on like this. And that's what I call a good cycle, because that whole time you've been saving interest, right? But you've never really gotten anywhere other than saving the interest over time. So this is what I call the wealth creator, and it is what I'm trying to get across to you guys, is that if you can get your money where it is compounding and growing, you can still have access to it for collateralized loans, and as you pay those loans back, your money keeps growing and growing and growing while also allowing you access to the money. So I really like that screen. It just gives you a good visualization of what I'm talking about. People think that paying cash is the most efficient possible thing to do, but I'm showing you here that paying cash interrupts compounding and therefore ultimately is not as efficient as if your money was to continue compounding uninterrupted. In this example, we have somebody putting in a $5,000 annual contribution. They have a 5% rate of return, and over 30 years, they drain the tank 5 times, and they take 4 years to refill it. So you can see in the early years, the money's just in the red is growing. Here, hold on one second. It's growing, and then they drain it, and then it's growing and drain, growing, drain, growing, drain, and then they finally wise up and say, wait a minute, I got to just let my money start growing. And by the end of that time, it's still, not that great. But if they would have not interrupted the compounding, it would have been just growing the whole time. So that, in a long-term difference, that made $282,000. So just in general, where you put your money is really more important than what rate of return it's earning. Okay? If you have your money in the right place, it can be much more powerful than chasing rates of return. Okay? And I believe very strongly that chasing rates of return ultimately does not work because it's much more important to position your money where it's going to grow over the long term. So I'm not a guy who's saying, hey, if you move your money over with me or whatever, I'm going to get you 1% more than you get with the other financial advisor. That's not it at all. I'm saying I want you to be in control of your own money, and I'm going to put you in a position where you control it, and you have access to it, and then you are able to really do what you want with it. And real estate is obviously, that's why we're here tonight. That's one of the great things that you can do. Okay guys, thank you very much. I really appreciate it.